few years ago, there was a girl who got a job at Cisco, the networking company. Upon hearing of the job offer, she tweeted, "Cisco just offered me a job. Now I have to weigh the utility of a fatty paycheck against the daily commute to San Jose and hating the work." She had no sooner posted this than she got a response from a Cisco employee, who's the hiring manager. I'm sure he'd love to know that you will hate the work. We here at Cisco are versed in the web. After which her offer of employment was quickly rescinded. It's probably no surprise to you that what we post on social media can come back to bite us. One need only Google "fired for social media post" to find many examples just like this one. The text for today, from the beginning of 1 Thessalonians, is Paul's initial greeting to the church in Thessalonica. There are a couple of key points in this passage that are important to note. First of all, Paul is praising the Thessalonians for being example Christians, particularly to the people of Macedonia and Achaia. Secondly, Paul points out that in this example is all the stronger because of the persecution that this particular church has endured. We aren't told what this persecution is, but it is clear that it was significant and that they prospered in spite of it. Finally, it is clear that Paul has gotten reports from other people in the area of the good works of the church in Thessalonica. St. Christopher students tend to impress those that they meet in public. Going back to when I was a student, out and about in a red sweater, to now, the students here are well behaved when they represent the school out in the community. It is not uncommon for the school to get a call from anonymous people in the community saying how impressed they were by the behavior of the boys at the school. There are clearly a lot of parallels here between the way we act in public and the scripture for today. Although we are not persecuted, unless you consider being a teenage boy a form of persecution, we do represent the school well on official school outings. What most of us don't think about is how we were representing St. Christopher's even when we aren't at an official school event. The first time I really thought about this was when I was in college at Randolph-Macon. Throughout my college career, I sang in several ensembles, and we were often asked to sing at high-profile events on campus. One year, when I was singing for a gala dinner, I was seated at a table with some college bigwigs, including a member of the Board of Trustees. At one point during the dinner, the board member remarked to me how excited he was to have a St. Christopher's graduate as a student at Randolph-Macon, and how he might encourage more St. Christopher's graduates to come to Randolph-Macon. It surprised me that he knew not only who I was, but that I had graduated from St. Christopher's. It was clear that he held St. Christopher's in high regard. I didn't think about it at the time, but I later realized that I had had the opportunity to change the way the man thought about the type of graduates that St. Christopher's is producing. Of course, in this situation, he was familiar with St. Christopher's and what we do here. But imagine what could have happened if he didn't know anything about St. Christopher's. My interaction with him could have been the deciding factor for his view of St. Christopher's. The truth of the matter is that you will always represent St. Christopher's in everything you do for the rest of your life. Whether or not you realize it, you are always on duty. A few years ago, I read a book called The Blogging Church. This book talks about the use of a blog as a ministry tool for pastors and lays out the different ways a minister can use a blog. One of the things that the author recommends is putting a disclaimer on the front page of a personal blog, stating that the views expressed are solely those of the writer and not necessarily those of the church where the pastor serves. I remember being particularly struck by this. It didn't make sense to me that something on a personal blog could reflect an entire organization. In social media, what we do as an individual on the web can reflect back on the groups we're associated with. We have seen examples of people being responsible for things that they post online, by being fired, losing an admissions offer or scholarship, or even being sued. All of you will have to deal with this in the future, as employees will be checking your digital footprint when you apply for jobs. As I was preparing for this talk, I went online looking for an example of of an organization being held legally responsible for the post of an employee or member. I didn't find any examples, but it's only a matter of time before somebody sues an organization for something that an individual posts online and wins. This is probably a good time to remind you that nothing you do on the internet is truly private. Even on a platform such as Snapchat, where your message will be deleted by the app, it is easy enough for somebody to take a screenshot before the message goes away. The bottom line is that there's no place that you can post on the internet and be certain it will not come back to haunt you. If you wouldn't want your mother or grandmother to hear what you're saying, you shouldn't post it on the internet. So why should you care about if your actions reflect badly on the school? You're probably expecting your St. Christopher's diploma to mean something when you graduate and go forth into the world. And it does. Colleges take where you went to high school into account when they decide whether or not they're going to accept you. Now, that doesn't mean that your only strategy for getting into college should be that you went to St. Christopher's. St. Christopher's graduates benefit from the fact that colleges know the quality of the program based on the performance of previous graduates. All of us are beholden to those that came before. In addition, it is our responsibility to uphold the ideals of the school so that future generations of saints can benefit from the good reputation of St. Christopher's. The way that we represent ourselves matters. It matters even more today when there are so many places online you can write private messages for your friends to read. We need to be mindful in our interactions on the web, as when we were wearing our red sweaters in a field trip, or our uniforms in an athletic event. As members of the St. Christopher's community, it is in our best interests, and it is our obligation to be good stewards of the traditions and good reputation of the school. When you graduate from this place and go forth and go on to other things, the value of your diploma will have an effect on your life. As Paul tells the early Christians in the church in Thessalonica, what we do will show who we are, and show that we are all saints. Amen.